Thanks everyone for joining us, staying for this chat about decentralizing wellness. My name is Salz. I use they, them pronouns. I'm with the Medicine Objective, which is Tegan's organization, which is why she did one of these. And we're just gonna kick it off with some introductions. We really invite y'all to into this conversation. It'll feel conversational, hopefully, and we'll kind of open up for questions too throughout to see how the flow goes. But just to get started, why don't we just do introductions? I'll start out over here. We'll pass the mic over. Oh, perfect. Wow, look at that.
Peace, y'all. My name is Armand. I am a multidisciplinary artist. I am a martial artist, a culinary artist. I am a poet and a music producer. Um, I also believe in the art of holistic healing and have been studying holistic healing sciences for how many years now? Almost 10, coming up on 10. And I have my own business, Pathmaker Herbs, and I source about 200 different herbs currently, and I do health and wellness consultations, custom tea blends, and I create protocols for all my people. Yeah, it's a little bit about me. Yeah, I'll pass it up.
Hello, I'm Tegan Carr. I am local to the area in St. Paul, Minnesota, and from here. I founded an organization called the Medicine Objective, which Sal's is my partner in. And we do really a wide range of stuff all around the themes of healing and liberation, especially for marginalized communities, marginalized peoples, around decolonization. We spend a lot of time in community, in nature, and then also within colonized systems like healthcare and academia, trying to shift the system in a more healing direction and healing relationships.
My name is Deja. I'm an herbalist and a mother, and I have my own business called Cloud and Fire Homestead, where I make herbal concoctions and also do consultations and help people. Um, my passion is for helping women and with their whole lifespan of health concerns or goals and throughout their journey. I founded Community Herbalism Project, which I think we'll be talking about a little bit in this discussion, which is a concept to connect people to the medicines that are growing in their backyards and connecting community members to be able to provide free herbal medicine.
Wonderful. So just to get started, kind of laying the groundwork, I'm going to open up the floor for y'all to kind of just talk a little bit about your relationship to wellness, right? Wellness, trauma-informed care, mental health, right? These are some things that are like becoming really, really pervasive, proliferative in our communities, deconstructing stigma around these concepts more and more. Everyone wants a piece of that wellness, right? Like people want to be healed today. But like, what does that actually look like? And what do we actually mean when we say we want to engage with wellness? So just to kind of generally open up that foreground for y'all, what is your relationship to wellness? What does wellness mean to you?
Well, I was saying on the first panel of the day that I believe there's an intrinsic and inextricable link between health and liberation. My healing journey has served to liberate my spirit, my body, my mind. Um, I came from a lot of habits that were causing me illness, and so pursuing healing has allowed me to essentially be a resource to myself, to be myself, to stand in my power, but also to be a resource to others and to allow them to stand in their power. So, yeah, health and liberation is inextricably linked. I'm really interested in freedom from oppressive systems. And so back in 2017, I started the concept, which is potentially to become an organization officially, but BUILD, which is an acronym for Beings United in Liberation Daily. The concept essentially being that um, we have to essentially be united together in the face of oppression and tyranny. I think we all understand. I don't have to explain the context of our situation, but we can look at the political landscape and the climate and understand what we're up against and what the future generations are up against, right? So, wellness and health to me is an extreme part of decolonization, of seeding the revolution, and of securing the future of humanity, and also honoring the ancestors and what has come before us to get us to this point. That's what healing is to me.
Um, Wellness to me, I feel like I agree with a lot of what you're talking about. That wellness and liberation go hand in hand, um, because there is so much that is just um, literally like anti-life in our culture and in these corporations that it's so hard to escape from. But as a practitioner, I would say for me, wellness is about showing up from a place that's heart centered, um, because I do think that that is a very big part of getting well. We can throw a lot of stuff at our bodies, and unless our heart comes into alignment um, with with God and with our community and the people who are in our surroundings and our environment, especially because this is where we live. Um, I think that there's only so much uh, that uh, the plants or any medicine can do, and so that's a big part of how I try to show up is about having a genuine care for the earth and having a genuine care for the people that um, I see and try to help with my medicine. Um, and I guess, like, in a more technical sense, um, like, remembering that everything and everyone that we come into contact with is can feel our heart's energy. Like our heart's electrical field is wider than can even be measured by the tools that we have available today. And um, whether it be the plants or another human being, whether we like it or not, we all do get affected by each other. So I would say that that's wellness to me, and holding the other, like, whatever I am come into contact with that would label itself wellness to that same standard, and realizing, like, is this thing like from coming from the heart? Like, who's behind this? Like, what are their intentions? How are they showing up for you? Um, yeah.
That's I feel like a hard or big question to answer. It's like, what is wellness? And I know that at one point I would have answered that it is freedom from oppression, um, and from trauma. But I think that my vision of that, or my concept, has definitely expanded, because I think that those describe the absence of things that are causing harm, which honestly is hard to imagine past that. And I feel like on my own journey, that's what I'm striving towards. And I see that there's this process of healing to become well. And I would love to be asked this question again. I feel like in 2 years, and then like just keep seeing if I'm continuing to progress towards that. But I envision as like balance, being able to access balance and have balance most of the time, and readily. I think that, naturally everybody's just going to be in different states at different times and have our tides and cycles. But the ability to experience balance in your body, in your heart, your mind, and your spirit, and balance all together. Um, I think that's wellness.
If y'all don't mind, I would also extrapolate on my original message because, I see the world changing, and I find it important to really be grounded in an understanding of wellness over time, wellness in the present. So to paint a more vivid picture, I'm seeing the populations rising globally. I'm seeing climate degradation increase globally, and I'm seeing government and corporate tyranny increasing globally, right? Um, so what does wellness look like in that context, and how much can we practice given the histories that we're all coming from? What is our actual entrance into wellness? Um, and I find that in the pursuit of liberation, one is going to inevitably come into contact with their relationships to people, but also their relationships to the planet, their relationships to themselves, and how do we navigate in these vessels that we have? Um, what is the energetic exchange taking place at any given moment? What is the intention, right? When we pursue an action, it could be something as simple as picking an item off of the shelf at a store, or in your own home. Um, do we have mindfulness in that space over the patterns that we're participating in? Mindfulness as to the patterns that have led to this point and the patterns that will ensue off of this action. Um, what is the energetic exchange also in that? What is the result of our choice? Um, what is being sacrificed in order to achieve this momentary goal, no matter how minute, you know? Even if it's in the moment just choosing to pick up your cell phone and look at it for a moment, for whatever reason. Um, it becomes so constant, the presence of the path towards wellness or away from it in any given moment. It becomes so tangible the more that you interface with your wellness journey. You begin to see your choices in real time and the consequences and the benefits of those choices. Ultimately, I think that any genuine pursuit of wellness and liberation will involve reducing your dependence upon the oppressive systems. A brother on the panel to my left earlier, when I was in the middle and there was a full house up here, um, he was saying that it's really important to cultivate your own food, right? That's one system that you can reduce your dependence on there. And as far as health and wellness is concerned, the more that you pursue increasing your ability to heal yourself and heal with your loved ones naturally, the less you're reliant on the medical system. Um, and these systems, the food systems of this place, the medical system in this place, have a long documented history of abuses, um, despite the advantages and the privileges that they afford us. Um, and the abuses are widespread and unsustainable. And so wellness is really taking a look at ourselves taking a look at the planet and realizing what is for the betterment of nature, what is in tandem with life, and what actions and what items on the shelf at the store um, are the opposite, serve to uh, infringe upon your wellness, right? Um, just taking a closer look at the things that we do to ourselves and to each other and how we show up, the things we say to each other, and being like, what is my actual intention? I'll leave it at that.
I knew there was going to be a lot coming from this question. I'm hearing a lot of synergy, actually, like this like spirit and heart of wellness moving towards liberation. But it doesn't just move on its own, it really requires some like stealthy stewardship, some waking consciousness, some decision making and responsibility to be in right relationship, to be more well, which is often kind of framed in this like self-centered or like self-care oriented framework, individualistic framework. But I'm also hearing that the path towards that is about relationships, not only to self, but to other people and to everything in the world. And the world being the context, which is a very traumatic, violent context that we probably all can resonate with some of those things. But then also, when you are very, very aware and mindful of that world around us, you also know that there's beauty and love and something that is really for us too, that is worth living and fighting for. And so that brings me to my next question is sort of what are these like earth or land based practices that you all practice? What shapes do they take? And tell us a little bit more about your journey to getting there. How have you come to know your earth-based practices, and how have you come to kind of see the sustainability in maintaining them? Another big question.
I can start it out, and it is a big question. But I mean, the it's interesting, the earth-based term, because it really is like, how can I make everything that I'm doing be in relationship with the earth, with nature, and related to, I mean, it's directly related to wellness for me, and part of why so much of like my focus and my work and the direction I'm trying to move that in is really bringing everything together in the context of nature and using nature and being in relationship with nature throughout as much of our lives and as much of meeting our needs as possible, because I feel like that really is where wellness exists, and the best pathway to wellness, to being well and healthy. So, I mean, I personally spend as much time in nature as I can, which is not nearly as much as I would like it to be, and I hope it will be more later. But I mean, how can, like in our tint, our medicine objective tint out there, like we have, we've got like herbal products and like foraging books and things like that. And, you know, I think there's always space to bring nature in. I think it actually is it takes much more energy, much more work, is really against the current to exclude nature and hold nature out. And that's what we're accustomed to and used to in our context and society. And the more that we can break that down, I think that just these other things flow and pour in. And I think somebody mentioned decolonization at one point, and that's a big focus too, and a term that I use a lot, but I think there's many other terms that are synonymous. And people will ask, what does decolonization look like? How do you decolonize? And the simplest answer, honestly, is restore a relationship with nature, and that will happen. It will just go with the flow, with the current, towards healing, towards decolonizing, towards deprogramming, liberating. And for me, that is just all wrapped up into wellness. Um,
Tegan,
yeah.
um, I'm so curious. How did you get to be like that? Like this perspective that you have, right, on nature and
Yeah.
wellness and that relationship to the earth and everything coming back to that. Where did that come from?
Well, I felt connected to nature for really all of my life. Although I didn't have as great of access in the younger part of earlier years of my life, I started spending more time in nature and had the opportunity to spend several months at a time in northern Minnesota, and would spend a lot of time on the water. And that was when I started to really, I think, build a deeper relationship with nature. It's hard to really describe kind of the before and after, but that was definitely the starting point. And I just, as when I was a little bit older, because I was like my late teens, I think, and then, I went to college, and then I was working, and really was pretty separated from nature for many years. And then when I went back into nature, I just became very aware of how much better my nervous system felt when I was in nature, and how easy it could be for me to just go out into a context where there are trees, or where I can hear the birds, where I can feel the wind, and how different my body and my mind felt in those contexts. And then I'm just going to fast forward several years though, because this would be a very long story. But when I was in medical school, which was just some of the dark ages of my life, it was horrible. um, and there was just a lot. It was during 2020 and 2021. There was just a lot of trauma on trauma. I was having health stuff, like so many things. Um, and that was really the only respite that I could get, would be to go out in nature, and that was the only time that I could be restored. And so at the same time, like, I was dealing with chronic illness and getting diagnosed, and I just was not well, and was in medical school, and also going through a medical system that was actively harming me, and really failing me and failing to care for me, and honestly was a violent system. And then in being on the other side of that and trying to become well, and how do I heal my body? How do I come back to a place of stability? I realized that I really needed to reach outside of what was available to me through the traditional Western medical system. And that readily brought me back into nature. And from, just growing food, being like, I need to, try to get better nutrients in my body. But then also I'm going outside and gardening to try to cope with the trauma of 2021 after George Floyd was murdered, here in our streets. Um, and those different ways of relating to nature when I was really struggling and really suffering really kind of blended together to paint a bigger picture, um, and helped me heal and become well. And from there on, it's just been a continued growing and development of that relationship, as I feel, more and more empowered, um, and in balance through my relationship with nature, and seeing the impact it has um, on others and their relationships and their experiences and their lives, through helping to kind of encourage or facilitate that healing with nature. Thanks, Mom.
I could snap, but I can't. Yeah, thanks for just sharing so much of a bit of your vulnerable. I mean, I know I literally asked you to share that, and also you went there, right? You went there and you opened up and shared a bit of your story and your relationship, and really, I think that one of the messages clear is like how you felt in your body, right? A reminder of how your nervous system feels when you feel well, when you feel whole, when you're focusing on being in relationship with nature again. Any of this resonate with either of y'all, or y'all want to take a different turn with answering the question?
For me, that definitely resonates a lot. Just having the experience of a tangible feeling of like you feel different when you're in nature and you're connected to the earth. Yeah, that definitely is familiar to me. Um, and I would say I relate a lot that that is also like how my own earth-based practices appear. For me, like a lot of it is just like getting down to the very basics of what it means to be a human who's living on the earth. Like in my daily life, it's checking in like how much time have I spent outside on the ground, like with my feet touching the earth. And, you know, ever since starting that practice, which every day I'm like, you know, it could be more. It could be more. You know, we spend so much time inside and then going, even when we're outside, we're going from pavement to pavement to pavement to the car to, you know, more pavement. And once you realize like how you really do have to make a real effort to like get your feet on the ground for more than just a few minutes a day, um, it really opens your mind to um, the fact that you know we're missing a big part of what people for so long it was just a part of their life. Um, and so yeah, like earthing, grounding, that's I try to make that a real effort of mine. I've got my earthing shoes on. um, um, but yeah, I mean, because you know, we are created from the earth, like we are earth, and so we should be on it. And I mean, it shows up like you know a feeling. You can feel the difference, but you know, there's so much science behind that, like behind the fact that just getting, I think even like 10 or 15 minutes a day lowers inflammation, like decreases our risk of autoimmune diseases, and you can tell the difference in our blood under a microscope, you know, like whether or not our blood is like sticking together and stagnant versus like flowing. And so yeah, that's a big thing for me. And so is sunlight, um, which is like this battle I think I have because I like share a bed with little babies and I have blackout curtains. But it's like every, you know, I am like, okay, but like I at some point in the night before the sun comes up, like I need to open them up, and because that's having that first sunlight hit your eyes is so important for us. Like you can feel it. That's another thing where it's like even if you don't know the science behind it, you can feel a difference between waking up feeling groggy or waking up ready to meet your day. Like just naturally, like there's um, that has such a tie to our hormones and our circadian rhythm, which then, you know, affects just how our whole body works. Like it's this whole cascade of events. And yeah, I guess my other big thing is water, which really hurts me, like how inaccessible really good water is. Um,
What do you mean by really good water?
I mean, like quality spring water straight from the earth. Um, like I'm feeling like emotional, talking about it because it's like we are made of earth and water, and it's why can't I get my hands on some good fucking water?
Yeah.
Even like I spend most of the year in northern Wisconsin where I live, and I'm so blessed to have free spring water that is um, flows out of somebody's backyard, and they make it available for free. But it's like, that also is going through a pipe. I don't know what's going on with those pipes, but it's like it would be so simple for that to be a priority in our society, to like make the most abundant resource on the planet accessible and safe for us to drink. Um, so yeah, I think those are my earth-based practices. I know, like getting back to just the most basic of basic things, because it's self-sustainability, but also I find that making it all work requires community. Like for me to spend enough time outside on the ground, I have to work with my kids, and also like my husband and my mother who helps us out a lot. Like I have to talk to them and be like, okay, like, I gotta like set things up. It's not just easy anymore to just like go sit on the ground if I want to. And every step of the way. So yeah.
So that original question was about our earth-based practices, right?
Yes, the original question is, um, what shapes do your earth-based practices take? And then, like, how did you come to know that form or that shape of practice?
I'll start there. I grew up. My mom is a massage therapist and is so highly skilled, and so having proximity to massage as a healing art since a child really dawned my entrance into health practices. And then I started writing at 5, um, and I think art is a huge form of healing. Art is self-expression. Art is cultural connection, and so um, humans, we're a cultural people. We're not meant to be so isolated, and having a practice that connects you to your people, connects you to yourself, helps you explore yourself, very healing. So I've used art in that way: spiritual cultivation, personal interaction with the self, um, and expression to one another. So art came through. When I practiced a number of different martial arts since I was 5, but when I was 10, I discovered Chen style Tai Chi, which I've been practicing ever since. I'm on my way to being a teacher, um, and I've been with the same teacher, my shifu, um, Jose Figueroa. Want to give him a shout out. Um, so those wellness practices were around for so long. Um, in my life, and they were helping me to understand the plane of health as it exists and what that means to interact with health in that way. But yeah, I realized in high school when people were going through a number of different issues, myself included, uh, very much so myself, but also my immediate friends. We had to deal with a lot of an inundation of trauma, um, substance abuse, um, other abuses inflicted upon one another. Um, it became really clear to me that something had to give. But that was also around the time that psilocybin came into my life, cannabis came into my life, 14 years old. Um, And so working with those medicines, opening my mind, being able to look around, seeing the dangerous environments that I was in, having to navigate those environments as I am actively, willingly participating in those environments. Um, I had to be wise. I had to draw upon my practices. And so it really, it dawned a second wave of awareness around health. And yeah, going back to the Tai Chi, um, it's a practice where you have to move extremely slowly for a long period of time, so slowly that it works the microfilament muscle tissues and releases synovial fluid in your joints, lubricating your joints, and working you on a cellular level, increasing the mind-body connection, the ability to communicate with your body on a cellular level eventually through the practice. And there's also deep meditation, so it's not just the movement meditation of it, but there's standing meditations where you stand still in a certain posture with your arms held high, and you have to hold like a. I'm not able to really show you, but if you come through tomorrow, I think I'm doing a demonstration. But yeah, there's so much there. So that practice has really held me. Um, yeah, and then it was high school where the herbs came through, and in my pursuit of healing and pursuit of liberation, truly, because I've been fed up with the system since I was a kid. I've been very recalcitrant since 5, like, since I could form tangible sentences and understand topics. I was really upset with how things were. And my parents were very good at making conversation around that and allowing me to explore um, that space. So um, my health journey has been really fostered my whole life and cultivated by the people I've had access to in my family and the mentors I've had in poetry to shaping my mind, helping me refine my vision. Um, but as I've branched off on my own, I've had to find out more than anyone's been able to offer me that I'm directly connected to. Because when you really pursue healing, it becomes about exploring knowledge and studying. It becomes a deep study. Even if you're just on your personal journey of healing, there has to be a huge element where it's just increasing your health literacy, right? For me, lately, biochemical literacy is becoming more and more important um, as I work with the plants. And so I've been buying textbooks and teaching myself. I'm a huge advocate for you don't need institutions to receive an education. Um, that being said, they can be really useful, of course, but it's just not for me. So I have had to seek out mentors and study at people's feet, but also teach myself, buy books and read them over and over, um, and test myself in various ways. So yeah, I don't know. I feel like I'm trailing off now. I don't know.
It's a great trail.
Cool.
Yeah. I think a lot of folks here enjoy getting on a good trail. Um, I just want to like really, really appreciate kind of a little bit of some of the touching points of like access, right? Like y'all have not, maybe not knowingly or directly, but kind of touched on how like it's difficult, it seems really difficult to access these practices. And that fills you with a rage, with a knowing that like we really should have a right to good water, to being able to be in nature all the time, to be able to access knowledge and knowing, and yet y'all have found ways to stay connected and be able to access it. And we have about 5 minutes, so before I consider jumping into like a closing question, I just wanted to ask you all if anyone is like really called to ask a question, and that could just be the closing question, honestly. Okay, far back was the first hand that I saw. I don't know what I'm supposed to do. Like, do I walk over there? Do you just shout out? Okay, great. Yeah.
Absolutely. Oh, that's so lovely. My first person I have to name is Tish Jones, local, powerful human being. Yeah, okay, come on. Created space for people like me to exist as an artist and grow as a youth artist when I was 15. Tapped in with the open mic there. But their poetry is available. You have to, I mean, their work is prolific and they're a pillar in the Twin Cities. So really be tapped in. They're a pillar on a national level now. They're working. Um, Tish Jones. And then, so we're also going to talk about Amiri Baraka. Um, Amiri Baraka for the beatnik generation representation. But tap in with the beatnik poets, the last poets, okay? Go all the way to the, you know, some people want to say hip hop started in the 80s. That's valid. It did. It did. But the last poets was around before then and they was doing their thing. So tap in. And let's see. Poets. I mean, I want to keep it also local whenever possible. We got to talk about Danez Smith. Um, and Danez Smith put me on to Ross Gay. Um, and then, I don't know, when I was a kid, when I was like 5, the first poet I ever read was Edgar Allan Poe. And I just read all of his stuff. And all of my poetry was extremely dark and twisted. And well, not all of it, but, as a teen, it helped me work through those things. So, um, but yeah, one day my poetry will be published, so tap in then too.
Sweet. I saw a hand in the front. You with the tie-dye shirt? Yeah. Yeah, thank you. So one question being about the role of psychedelics in really radicalizing ourselves and our wellness. And the second question being about access early on in young people, childhood education, and what does introducing this to our little ones look like?
Okay. Can I answer the second one? Because I feel like that's like really. So for me, like what I do for my kids, because I'm like so like serious about making sure that they have the information that I learn, is one, like Armand was talking about, armor yourself, educate yourself, make sure like you are getting that education so you can pass it on. Um, there's so many good books, like the library, the internet. Like I know that there's a lot of stuff on the internet, but there's good stuff. You just gotta find it. But in a like in a how I go about kind of instilling this into them is like go outside and like what you see is like what you talk about, like the plants. Like I try to make sure that any plant that I'm interacting with my daughter who's 3 and she's my only kid who's really can like get it at this point. Um, telling her the name, what they're used for, like involving her senses, like feel that plant. Don't just pick it just to like, play around and then drop it, but like feel it. What does it feel like? I try to get her to like develop that language and that relationship of like using all of her senses, tasting. If she, you know, if I know it can freak a lot of people out, maybe, but like there's so few seriously dangerous plants, especially here. Um, there's lots of plants that maybe don't taste good, but it's like it's important to know, you know, and get used to the all of the wide range of tastes, and so that they can feel what it feels like in their body when they taste something really bitter, and they feel their digestive secretions going, you know, and they know, they get familiar with that. Um, and just giving them language on how to talk about like how they also feel better when they're in nature, and um, they also giving them the experience of like just sitting and being with a plant, and you know, giving your intention to a plant and talking to the plants and telling them like this is a living being. Like I'm always trying to tell my daughter, like, you know, you can talk to the plant. They're not gonna talk back to you in English like that you can hear, but they'll talk to you, and one day you'll hear and you'll know that that is the plant communicating with you. um, I would say that that's like a big thing. It's just opening the space up for them to have those experiences that they can carry on.
So I think we're at the end of our time. Do
Sorry.
you want to just say a sentence or two?
Yeah, I'll say two sentences. In
Great.
terms of psychedelics radicalizing, um, psychedelics brought me from a place of being reactive to being generative. And, you know, like I was saying earlier, of like wellness, this idea of like being on the other side of like absence from oppression. Um, the question is like, can we build, what is on the other side? Can we pursue that? And can we build without being in the place of absence of oppression? And I believe that we can. And it's through psychedelics that I came to that belief and that awareness. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Do you mind if I say one last thing?
I don't know. I'm not in charge, but maybe you can, and the MC can, come up here and cut it off.
I just want
I'm
to
just a
say,
tourist passing through.
those of us with knowledge, there is a responsibility to pass that to the youth, and to pass it in general. I'm not necessarily equipped to say who you create access for, but create access, for sure.
Thank y'all for being present with us today.